The AAT, or Armored Assault Tank, was a medium-sized vehicle used by the Trade Federation and later the Confederacy of Independent Systems. The AAT entered service just before the Battle of Naboo in 32 BBY, so it was a fairly known vehicle throughout the galaxy in a very short time. It was the frontline vehicle for the CIS and the Trade Federation during the Clone Wars and still remained active during the early times of the Rebel Alliance and beyond. It was a powerful machine with a well-deserved and feared reputation. It was used in every major battle in the Clone Wars and notably used heavily during the Battle of Naboo. The TX-130 Saber-class tank was also a medium-sized vehicle, but was instead used by the Galactic Republic during the Clone Wars. The TX-130 Saber-class tank came out in the very early stages of the Clone Wars, in 22 BBY. Although it wasn't quite ready for the battle on Geonosis, it came out soon after. The TX-130 was also used extensively in the Clone Wars, although you never really get to see it in the movies, the Clone Wars series, nor the Clone Wars miniseries. After the Clone Wars, the Saber Tank was still widely used by the Galactic Empire, and also the Rebels acquired a few of them from the black market. The TX-130 Saber-class tank would later be replaced by the 2M repulsor lift tanks that were a little heavier and slightly more powerful. Now I'll compare their abilities in speed and maneuverability. The AAT was produced by Bactoid Armor Workshop. It was a company that spread its wings over 3 planets: Geonosis, Neimoidia, and Shaco. Bactoid also produced other things for the CIS, prior to that, the Trade Federation. It also produced the Multi-Troop Transport, or MTT. The AAT was a truly remarkable vehicle as it stood the test of time and went up against much heavier Republic machines like the All-Terrain Tactical Enforcer, or ATTE. According to the Legends canon on Wikipedia, that is my source, the AAT could travel with a speed of up to 55 km per hour, that is 34.4 miles per hour, and as it was a repulsor lift vehicle, then it wasn't really affected by the terrain or the ground, since it didn't really have any physical form of contact with it. That is why that over both roads and in the terrain, it can travel at the same speed 99% unaffected, if not 100. The AAT was, due to being a repulsor lift vehicle, able to turn a full 360 degrees without even moving an inch from the spot. But the actual speed of which it could turn around with and how long it would take is questionable at best. But I can make an educated guess, and I believe that from what I have seen in sourcebooks, and from games and more, it would take about 5 to 6 seconds to do a full 360 degree turn. The TX-130 Saber-class tank was another matter. It was first and foremost made on Rothana by Rothana Heavy Engineering. Rothana Heavy Engineering was a sub-company of the Kuat Drive Yards, or KDY. As the TX-130 Saber Tank came out just around the beginning of the Clone Wars, it was at least 10 years younger than the AAT. It had more modern technology in it, and it weighed a lot less than the AAT. Also, it had a much more powerful power plant and repulsor lift engine that could make the Saber Tank move with up to 320 km per hour, which is 200 miles per hour. Its nickname, the Jedi Starfighter on land, definitely was well deserved. Because of the much lighter weight and the more powerful engine, it is definitely capable of turning around on a plate, just like the AAT. But, unlike the AAT, the Saber Tank could do it in around 2 seconds compared to 5 to 6 seconds on the AAT. And also, it is a full 5.8 times faster. That's one heck of a speed advantage. Although it is not capable of maintaining that speed all the time, it can only come in short bursts. Still, it speaks volumes about the insane levels of speed that the TX-130 can achieve. On speed and maneuverability, I give the clear and very comfortable edge to the Saber Tank. And now to compare their offensive and defensive capabilities. The AAT was a medium-sized vehicle, but it had some really heavy and strong armor. It certainly was capable of taking hits and give them back in full force. It only had a single weak spot, which was the hatch on the back, that people or droids could use to enter the tank, as that point was fairly lightly armored. Still, the tank in itself could take several hits before going down. Its armament, on the other hand, was definitely not something to take lightly either. Its main weapon was its turret-mounted single heavy laser cannon. That turret was capable of turning a full 360 degrees as well. Also, on the sides of those kind of two arms, it had 2 light laser cannons and another 2 anti-personnel blasters mounted securely to the hull. The AAT also carried rockets that would fire from the bottom of the disc shape in the front. The ones on each side closest to the middle of the tank were bunker-busting shells. The middle spots were armor-piercing shells, and the 2 outer tubes on each side were general-purpose high-energy shells. Add that to its heavy armor and laser cannons, and you have a pretty serious package of nastiness to play with. The TX-130 Saber Tank, on the other hand, had fairly light armor in comparison to the AAT. But what it did have going for it that would help to even the odds against the AAT was the fact that it had 2 Exoshield 3 projectors that gave it a pretty powerful defensive capability, which would help compensate for the light armor by taking a few punches here and there before actually hitting the armor. But again, that was also a reason for the vastly superior speed advantage it had over the AAT. The TX-130 Saber Tank also had powerful weapons to boast with. It had 2 dual heavy laser cannons that could deal some serious damage. But in addition, it also had a row of 3 rockets on each side. It could fire 6 rockets in less than a second and carried up to 100. The TX-130 Saber Tank could go up against almost everything that the CIS could throw at them, being vehicles, turrets, cannons, etc. Because of the rockets, it was extremely good at destroying buildings and vehicles, and because the rockets could penetrate the shields, it had an edge against things protected by energy shields. And now, the verdict. Both these vehicles had just about the same role in a battle. They were designed to take on both infantry and light to medium vehicles, but anything above would cause both these to have major difficulties overcoming the threat. And both the 2 vehicles were best used in packs of 3 to 5, where they could really decimate an enemy company of soldiers with little to no effort. Also, if these 2 came up in a battle against the CIS Crab Droid or the DSD-1 droid, Dwarf Spider Droid 1, or Republic ATRTs, All-Terrain Recon Transports, they'd completely decimate the opposition with little to no effort. So, how would they stack up against each other in an actual battle? It is a really difficult thing to say for sure, as they are both very similar on several fronts. Their firepower is quite similar. Their defensive capabilities are quite similar as well. Yet the AAT gets the advantage there due to the fact that it can still take a bigger punishment from solid object weapons like rockets. The Saber Tank can't, because its energy shield doesn't keep solid ammo out if it gets shot at. So, if these two were to stand up against each other on the battlefield, who would win? If we look at them both with their pros and cons, then if the AAT started out firing its rockets and hit the Saber Tank, it would likely be over already. But the Saber Tank is so maneuverable that it could evade those rockets, and with its much lighter weight and supposedly more powerful engine, it could also accelerate much quicker to get out of harm's way, and hopefully outflank the AAT before the AAT could get to fire at it again. But by that time, the TX-130 Saber Tank would also fire with its own lasers, and then seeing as the lasers would do very little damage, it would then have to switch to its rockets and fire them against the AAT, which it would have more luck with, and so it could definitely deal some heavy damage if firing off all of its 6 rockets at the same time. That would destroy the AAT, as the AAT only had 2 tubes that were exclusively meant to pierce armor. Yet, the general purpose launchers could potentially also be used against the Saber Tank. But, seeing as these are so much alike and that there's so much to take into account, if we also include the crew that are manning the tanks, then that also has a valuable say on the matter. But as this is on completely neutral ground, then that wouldn't factor in here. But due to the incredible amount of speed that the Saber Tank can boast with, then I'd have to give the final edge to the Saber Tank. But let it be said that it is only because of that, and in this case, as in any other case, I would have given it to the AAT. But again, as their defensive capabilities are just about equal, then that's only by a very slight margin that the AAT would have over the Saber Tank. This is no doubt a very difficult battle to call, but in the end, I see the TX-130 Saber Tank take the edge 6 out of 10 times here. So, I declare the TX-130 Saber class tank the winner. Well guys, if you liked this video, please don't hesitate to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more, then please do come up with suggestions in the comment section. No suggestions are too stupid, so please fire at will. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and as always, take care and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. This is Chris, Lord Cirque, signing off. May the Force be with you.